Yeah, yeah. You never know. I mean, you don't know what you're exposed to.
No, you don't. They was over there, and they did a physical. They checked her arms. They did blood work. They did all that. And Dr. Bosco said, y'all free to go right now. I don't think it's going to be any problems of contaminating nobody. He said, but y'all do need to get checked for radiation. And the sheriff heard that, and he called Keesler Air Force Base. That was the only place on the coast he knew to take us. He drove us over there. They escorted us through the gate and checked us for radiation. It was 6 guys in a hazmat suit. Then we went back, and the Air Force interviewed us, and they was really nice. Usually, everybody I've ever talked to said, they interrogation and all this black men in black stuff, but that wasn't like it was there. They was nice to us. Well, the sheriff was driving us back to the shipyard to get our car. He said, there's one more person that you need to talk to that's here, and he's at the shipyard. He said, have you ever heard of Dr. Hynek, which was over Project Blue Book? I said, yeah, I've heard of him. No, at that time I hadn't heard of him, but I have now. He was real popular. So he said, y'all need to talk to him. Well, we went in and we met the guy that was over Project Blue Book, but he wasn't with Project Blue Book. Him and Dr. Harder. And I he made me feel so comfortable that I did. I sat down and told Hynek everything that went on. And he went out to the side, checked it. The next day we went back, and I told him I had to get home to my family. Of course, I had made up my mind. That was it. I was going home, and but I wasn't going to go home and talk to my family about it. Not my fiance, the girl I was engaged to get married the next month, nor any of my family, nor any of my friends. As far as I was concerned, I had my 15 minutes of fame, and it was over. So that's what I did. I went home, bundled this stuff up for years. I traveled around. I went back to work in the oil field, and I traveled, and that's how I ended up in Golden Meadow. Uh, just all over Louisiana. And that's where I ended up meeting Colonel Marcel and all that was involved in this Roswell thing. And 6 years later, I finally broke the silence, wrote a book on it, not by my choice because I didn't want the publicity, but I got to thinking things are a little more open now than what they used to be in the 70s. People
Oh yeah,
don't take
absolutely.
right. People don't take you crazy now. You turn on the TV and go to the History Channel, and you got Ancient Alien, you got Project Blue Book, you got all these shows about this, and people take them serious. Where back then they didn't. So that's why I'm sitting
Wow.
here today.
That is amazing. That's an amazing story. Now, so in all of those years, you never had any of no visitations, no seeing anything in your room, anything like that. No other contact from these things.
I did. Uh,
Oh,
in
okay.
1993, I did.
So
And
20 years later.
exactly 20 years later. And when it first happened, I told my wife, we was living in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. And I said, look, I'm going fishing. Now, back then, at night time, I wouldn't be on that water by myself no more. I said, I'll be back before dark. Don't worry. If something happens, call the Coast Guard. I said, you got to wait probably 24 hours. But I left after that morning at 6, and I got to the island, which was about a 25-minute run to Cat Island. So the tide was wrong. She had made me a lunch, and I was sitting there about 11 o'clock that day and eating a lunch. Well, the next thing I knew, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. So I missed from around 11 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock a.m. the next morning. So that's a lot of missing time there. And
Yeah, it
there
is.
was blood all over my shirt. My eyes was cut. My eyeballs was scratched. I mean, I was a mess. Looked like I'd been in an old bar room fight and lost. But I got in a boat and I went home about 3. And of course, she was worried to death. That's where I'd been. I said, well, don't want to talk about it. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. Go on to bed. So I went in there and took a shower and got cleaned up and didn't think nothing else about it. Got out the next day going to put my boat up and clean it up a little bit. And I noticed there was a friend of mine that came over just for a visit. He said, well, did you catch any fish? You look like hell. Did you catch any fish? I said, well, thank you. And no, I didn't. Well, he opened the cooler and it was full of fish. And I didn't remember putting any of them fish on. And I got to telling him about this missing time. Well, he was actually a reporter with WXXB Channel 25 down here. They'd been trying to interview me for years. And I would never give him an interview, but over this period of time, we became friends. You know, we'd meet for a little bit, shoot the bull. He even went fishing with me a couple of times. Him and his wife would come to the house sometime, you know, and eat dinner. So I said, no, I didn't catch no fish. Well, he opened the cooler, it was full. He said, this cooler's full of fish. I said, no. So I explained to him about this missing time that I had. He said, well, what happened? I said, I don't know. I have no idea. So he said, I know somebody that wrote a book on missing time, and I would like for you to go talk to him. So, well, I don't mind. He said his name's Bud Hopkins. Now, I had no idea who in the world Bud Hopkins was. So he said he's in Florida. I said, well, you know, I'm ready for a road trip. That's a nice little short trip from here, you know, 10, 12 hours. So we rode to Florida and we got to where this conference was. I didn't know it was a big UFO conference. And
Oh
he
my
said,
goodness.
yeah. He said, well, he's in there. I said, well, I'm not going in there. I said, I'm staying right here in the car. He probably won't know who I am, don't care who I am, don't want to see me. So Bill went in there and told him that he had a Calvin Parker out there that needed to talk to him. He had some missing time. Well, of course, Bud Hopkins knew of me through the 1973 thing. I figured all that would be over. And he said, y'all go to my motel room. I would like to talk to him. So we went to the motel room and he said, I'll be there in just a little bit. Good to his word. We went on in and sat down. Well, he showed up not too long after that. He had to knock on his own door because he gave us his key. And he come in, introduced himself. Of course, we all introduced ourselves again. And I got to tell him about this missing time. He said, look, let me hypnotize you. I said, but I can't be hypnotized. It's just no way. I don't believe I can. He said, well, let me try. He said, nothing to lose by letting me try. So I agreed. And I said, look, old man, I want to tell you something right now. I don't want my mind played with. I got a ball back in the trunk of that car. If you can get me to do something stupid like they do in them Las Vegas shows, jump up and down and bark like a dog and everything else, or start putting thoughts in my head, I'm bringing this ball back to this guy that's with me. He's going to beat you to death with it. Then he's going to leave and just put the ball back in my hands. Do you understand that? That I do very plainly. And I said, I want these people in here with me because I trust them when you do this. Well, the what came out in all this is another story altogether. And these, you know, it takes a couple of hours to tell it. So he hypnotized me, and I didn't even realize I had been hypnotized until I was getting ready to do the book. And I had mentioned to Philip, the publisher, I said, they some goofball tried to hypnotize me, but I don't think there's nothing to it. He said, who was it? I said, Bud Hopkins. He said, well, Bud's passed away now. Dr. Jacobs has all his files. Let me try to get them and see what's going on. I said, I'm telling you, I think it's nothing to it. I don't remember. So he sent off. He said, yeah, Dr. Jacobs needs you to give him permission to send me these files. So I did. And come to find out, it was 3 hours of hypnosis on there. Now,
Wow.
when we got ready to listen to the tape, I wouldn't listen to it because he had put a post hypnotic suggestion in my head that I wouldn't remember this until I was able to handle it.
Stay tuned for more Scariest Paranormal Radio.
Follow me, Kalila Smith, into the mysterious world of spirits. Searching for Spirits, the ultimate guide for ghost hunters, is a concise how-to manual for anyone who enjoys a good ghost hunt. Learn the history of spiritualism, learn what a ghost is and what is not. Learn the truth about poltergeist. We'll also delve into the realm of spiritual beings that never were human, the world of demons, real vampires, and we'll look at some real case studies. This is a must-have for everyone interested in ghost hunting, from the novice to the expert. Completely updated in its second edition, this is one of the first guides for ghost hunting based on actual first-hand experiences. Available on Amazon.com. Searching for Spirits, the ultimate guide for ghost hunters, by Kalila Smith.
You're listening to Scariest Paranormal Radio.
So, anyhow, when I got he transcribed the tapes and all, there's a lot of good stuff that come out in there. I told my wife, I said, go in. Now, this is the first time, and I didn't even think about it, but I was doing the book. But it was the first time that I had even mentioned anything to her about anything in the book. I said, look, baby, go in there. I don't want to listen to this tape. Listen to the tape. And as my memory comes back and what happens, you tell me if my memory's wrong or right. She went in and she stayed in here in the room about 45 minutes, and she come out crying, said, I can't listen to no more of that. And I don't want to hear no more. That's it. So it was a while, it was a show. It was actually during this first book, me doing an interview that Linda Moulton Howe come on, and she's a pretty good reporter, and she shook my memory on the whole thing. And I started remembering slowly but surely. And as I remembered, I checked it against the tape, and that was just the way that it was. It was 3 hours of it.
And that
But
was the new situation, what you experienced 20 years later at Cat
20
Island, right?
years, yeah, 20 years later.
And
And
this is in
it
your
was,
book, right? Is this in the book as well?
it is, it's in the book, Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter, My Story, Calvin
Okay.
Parker. You get them all through Amazon. And then it was so much stuff coming out after I did this book. There was so many eyewitnesses, so many other things that actually eyewitnessed this encounter when it happened. And Philip started taking testimony from them. There's a second book out that is just as big as the first book, about 800 pages. And it says, Pascagoula, the story continues, new witnesses, and I can't even think the name of it really. But anyhow, the story continues.
And is this
And
your book as well, or is this someone else's book?
no, it's mine.
Oh
But
wow.
we scooped up all the eyewitness accounts, all the evidence we could, all the interviews with the sheriff department and the secret tapes and all that night. We put all that stuff, and we was just going to do an addendum on the first book, but the second book being just as big as the first book, we
Wow.
put it all in there. So It's all there. So there's two books out floating around. Now
Oh, okay.
I prefer the second book